All right, Commissioner, you're free to proceed.
Good morning, everyone. This is the February 16th meeting of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee. We're meeting virtually. I will begin by calling the roll at 10:29. Frank Cole, are you here? I see you down below. Great. Gary Glass, are you here? Jimmy Horty has to work, so he will not be here. Guy Abernathy, I see you. Steve, you're here now. And Allison, I heard your voice. You're here. Honey, you're here. Brian is here. I'm present. I'm Jay Legree, and we have a quorum. I think we have Kevin Williams and Chief Banks also on as listeners. Is that correct? I see two Kevins, but maybe not. No, I think we're square now. Okay. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the January 11 minutes? And if so, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. The minutes are moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We do not have correspondence that relates to the agenda, but we do have correspondence from a Boy Scout who is working on his merit badge for citizenship in the community. And he has written a letter to me asking if it would be possible to interview one of the members of the beach or of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee. And do I hear any volunteers to have that young man interview you as a member of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee?
I'll be fine.
Okay, I saw a guy's hand go up. Are you good to go, Guy?
Yeah, I'm fine. If not, unless somebody else wants to, it doesn't matter. But I'd be happy to volunteer.
Brian, does it make a difference to you? Are you okay?
Guy, by all means, he's more local than I am.
Okay, Guy, I will send you the letter, which has the email address of the young man and his mother. And they may, I explained that probably because of COVID-19, a face-to-face meeting might not be possible, but perhaps a telephone call. And I think also they would be quite willing to send you the questions by email and do it that way. So I will send those to you. And James, if you're listening, Guy Abernathy is going to be in contact with you by email and in contact with your mother also. So be prepared. We love it that you're doing what you're doing. And as an advisory committee for Rehoboth Beach, we're proud that you asked us to be interviewed. And with old business, I just want to remind that we're an advisory committee. We want to keep our boardwalk and beach beautiful. We want to save our brand. We want to keep it safe, clean, friendly, do no harm. And for old business, the second part of old business, I think I'll turn this around a little bit and talk about dog waste dispensers on the boardwalk before we get into more discussion about dark sky. The dark sky certification is a pretty big hurdle to jump. So we'll talk about that once we've talked about the dog waste dispenser bags. Have we all had a chance to think about that, whether we would like to have those dispensers on the boardwalk or not? Would anybody like to start off that discussion?
I don't mind starting it off. I
Go
think
for
that
it, honey.
I understand it's a problem. I have not seen it myself, but I know I have heard it's a real problem. But I have a real problem with adding more plastic to the environment after we're trying to get it off the boardwalk. We're trying to get it away from the beach. And I just see that as just one other source of contamination. I'm sorry. I don't really think that it's something I could support.
Thanks, honey. Steve brought up the first time we talked about this that we needed to get on it because there are no dogs on the boardwalk during the summer. And does that mean if we had them, we'd have to take them up during the summer season? Because we sure don't want dispensers on the boardwalk if there are no dogs allowed. And I wonder if that would be a logistics problem. I didn't think about that until a few days ago. I took a walk, many walks, but I was just looking for places where they might be on the boardwalk, and it's really tough to find a place where they're not sitting out there staring at you. I thought about putting them in a kiosk or something, and you think about, because you need them, you need one right when they got on and right when they got off, and you need one to remind them along the way if you were going to put them out there. But any other thoughts on that? Brian, do you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see happen?
Yeah, I like you, Jay. I walk the boardwalk just about every single day, and I don't see it right now a problem. But I do see dogs defecating on the boardwalk, and owners are picking it up. Yeah. The bags, with regards to Holly's comment, the bags I would imagine are very much biodegradable, and they're not the same as normal plastic. But then your comment on logistics, it would be a case of these would have to be seasonal. They would just be located somewhere on the boardwalk during the winter months. But then not only logistics, we've got costs to consider as well. And I don't know, do Rehoboth dog owners, do they pay for a dog license? Does anybody know?
No. I don't think there is a dog license.
Sorry?
I don't think there is one for Rehoboth.
Yeah, because that's normally where the cost for placing this kind of amenity would be charged to. It would be charged to the actual dog owners in their licenses. So, like I say, it doesn't seem to be a huge problem now. Although I read that correspondence from that one lady that feels it is. But that's my comment.
Steve, say again what you said. I didn't quite get it all.
There is no dog license for Rehoboth that I know of. Dewey does have one. I think it's maybe $40 a year or so.
Yeah, that's my understanding also. I thought there was a chance you might have. That's what I agree with. I think that's the way it's being done now. Guy, go ahead.
I guess my thoughts are I'm against it. It seems like if you start enabling them, it gets worse and worse as it goes along. Right now, as all the walks I've had, I have not really noticed that it's a problem. If we did have to do it, I guess where the appropriate place would be is maybe somewhere where it's plastered onto the trash cans, but then that becomes a problem for the sanitation department, picking it up, filling them, and whatever. So I'm against it just from the true sense of what our mission is as far as preserving the sight line of the beach and the boardwalk and all that and the dunes. I think we've done a good job of cleaning that up as much as possible. The COVID signs naturally will go away in time, and that will help again to make it back to our original clean, cleanscape is what I look at, So I don't think it's a good idea. That's my personal opinion.
Allison, have you thoughts on this?
I walk the boardwalk all the time, and it doesn't mean that it's not a problem. I don't mean to dismiss anybody's legitimate concerns. I just don't see it personally. And that could just be a difference in the time that we're walking. But I think that in what I only assume is a more rare instance, I just think it's a reach to do this, especially when we don't allow dogs on the boardwalk for part of the year. And I think that just sends a confusing message.
Frank? Unmute yourself, Frank.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
You bet.
Okay. I'm a little bit on the fence, but I have two objections. Number one, I hesitate to enact anything that would take away from personal responsibility, which I think is at the heart of this issue. And then secondly, I don't like the idea of, if you do have a doggy bag dispenser, that you have to have it every block or every, I really would support it maybe on a limited basis. And I think the natural place for these, you know, if you want to try it out, is the park at Lake Gerard and the park over on Stokely Street. You know, I just don't like the idea of clutter, and by clutter I mean having doggy bag dispensaries on every block at the top of the boardwalk.
Thanks, Frank. Can I say that our consensus, and I will make this report to the commissioners, that our consensus is we would like to just continue as we are now. We realize that once in a while, on rare occasions, you'll see a mistake that hasn't been picked up, but by and large, we would rather go on like we are now.
Mhm.
Does that sound okay?
That sounds
Yeah.
Good.
Chief Banks, can you come on?
Good morning, sir.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you see a time when we won't be able to have any dogs on the boardwalk?
I do not, just with the handicap accessibility, with the different types of dogs that are legally allowed to. And quite honestly, that brings up a whole nother issue, that it's getting harder and harder to enforce that, because people say it's a dog for a handicap.
Yeah. Yeah, some kind of service dog.
So I think, yeah, service dog. So I think we're always going to have some dogs on the boardwalk, but I think our message is clear that we don't allow them, and cadets and full-time officers have to keep enforcing that.
Thanks, Chief. So I will go back to the commissioners and say that we would prefer that that we don't go forward with this plan or with this idea. And now let's talk a little bit. I have nothing to. I don't have any. Thanks, Chief. I don't have any update on the dolly sign. A lot of people are talking about what kind of a sign Grotto will have up, and if they want to do that. And you saw the example in the Cape Gazette, I'm sure. My personal opinion is that that's probably not going to detract from our view shed. And so I would, I'd love to see what kind of progress happens going forward. They will have to have a variance to put that up, and they'll have to come before the Board of Commissioners, but I'm waiting to see what transpires. And nor do I have anything new to say about whether Mr. Eibach is going to put the dolly sign over his store, or just what he will do with that. So I have really nothing to add on that score. Any questions before we go forward on to another topic? We've kind of slowed down on our commercialization project, because we've been dealing with dark sky in anticipation of the new lights that are going to come on the boardwalk. So, but that's commercialization's still on the table. I don't want to take it off. And once we get squared away, we'll go forward some more on that. I have nothing to add on the temporary restrooms that will probably be used this summer behind the, for sure, behind the Delaware Avenue. The new Delaware restrooms are going to be again on the budget, and I believe we'll all vote to have that go forward. As you know, the mayor is organizing a task force for the Wilmington and Baltimore streetscapes. And Baltimore on the boardwalk at Baltimore is the lifeguard station. And we have plans to renovate that, to add a second story and to put more restrooms in there. So that's still on the ticket. I think we're going to allocate money for design this year. As far as I know at this point, we are going to have, and I don't know the final number, but right now I've heard 16 antennas on light poles, and they'll probably be the ones that were drawn and shown in the Cape Gazette. And I think all of us have approved or have disagreed with that. But I think contractually the city will probably allow Verizon to go forward with that. Now, as Commissioner Gossett said in that meeting on the 22nd, we may have to accept the first 16, but the 17th one is going to be a different deal. So as we go forward, as we talk about dark sky and the fact that we don't even know yet whether or not the poles that are coming, the antennas that are coming, can even be adapted for dark sky. I'm sure they can with the globe, but we don't know what the light's going to look like or anything like that. So those 16 are probably coming, if that's truly the number, but that's the number that I've heard. We're all aware that as I just said a moment ago, that Mayor Mills is organizing a task force for the streetscapes on Baltimore and Wilmington. And those streetscapes, those projects are going to go all the way 2 blocks from the boardwalk to First Street and Second Street. And First Street and Second Street is going to also be included in this new streetscape renovation. And the same with Wilmington, the first and second block of Wilmington is going to be included. So it is a huge project that's coming down the pike. And the thing to remember is that the east border of these streetscapes happens to be the boardwalk. So we're going to be facing those issues. And I would like for all of us to try to stay tuned to what the task force is doing. I don't know when the first meeting is going to be, but it'll be as soon as Mayor Mills can put the task force together. And we're going to be bringing issues to the task force if we have them. And one of the issues is our view shed. We don't want crazy stuff going up at the end of those streets. And I don't think it'll ever happen, but we just need to stay vigilant, keep our eyes on the ball, and talk to the mayor about it when we have issues and bring them forward. Questions on streetscape? Anybody have questions or discussions? This brings us to our main topic today, and we'll talk as long as we can. And we're going to wind it down about 25 minutes after 10 if we, I mean, after 11, if we go that long. So have you all had a chance to read the requirements for urban dark sky places? And Jan Conacy and Frank and Kate Margaret and I had a phone call with the dark sky people, and we talked about a lot of different issues and things that we could do going forward. And the dark sky people will help us. They want us to accomplish and become a dark sky place. But the bar is pretty high. And I don't know the best way to attack this. I don't know. Talk to the mayor, and we talked about the difficulty of making these 16 light poles dark sky compliant. I just don't know how we could adjust the light shed, if you got an antenna blocking the light. We can shroud the globes so that the light doesn't go crazy up in the sky, but it's difficult to fine tune the light that's coming down on the boardwalk if you got that antenna staring you in the face. So the mayor just wants us to do the best we can. And there are a lot of other issues with dark sky that we could be working on while we're waiting to see what those poles are going to look like. And I don't know if Verizon is going to change them or not. If between now and the time they get installed on our boardwalk, if some new development comes along that they can make these antennas smaller or shroud them in a different way, I'm hoping that they'll do that. So we really won't know what we're looking at until they actually put them on the boardwalk. So if you turn to page 3, does everybody have it on their screen, or were you able to print it out? It's this, it looks like this. It's a printout I sent you back. Well, I guess it was in January. But anyway, the objective of what we're doing with dark sky is to regulate the amount of light trespass that goes off of globes that are not shrouded, that are aimed in the wrong way, that are too bright, that waste energy. And if you stand on the beach and you look at the boardwalk, you can see a lot of light that just goes everywhere. So we probably got a lot of things that we can do even before the street lights are turned on. But on a dark night, once the street lights come on, I'm standing on the beach and there's just glare everywhere above the street lamps. So that's a big problem. But there are lights coming out of there are lights coming out of businesses. There are lights on condos. There are lights on hotels. There are just lights everywhere. So there are things we can do. But in order to be eligible to be a urban dark sky place, you got to have a place where people can come easily to. And we are. The place has to be safe at night. And we are. You have to be able to come here without being supervised. And we do. People can get on the boardwalk and they can walk up and down. There doesn't need to be supervision. It has to be safe, but but it doesn't need to have to be supervised. And we must be able to engage visitors about the value of dark skies. And I think there would be a great opportunity on the boardwalk. And they say they have something called the managing agency must be available. And I suspect that would be possible, in different ways, because the city is the managing agency. There are police on the boardwalk. We have lots of representation from the city. So I think we would be eligible to be a urban dark sky place. Once we get the kicker is the light management. And I don't know how to tackle this. Do we hire somebody? Do we try to find somebody? Do we go through and all of us go through it at night and take a look and see where the bright glaring lights are and make note of them? I don't even know what the optimum amount of light would be for the boardwalk. I think there are people who know. If you remember Frank and Jan and Kate, their presentation, they showed how sometimes you can see a lot more if the lights aren't so blasting at you. So there may be possibilities there before Verizon even puts their antennas down. So I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts at this point to kick in? To go, Allison?
So the International Dark Skies Association, right? IDA, they
Yeah.
have a whole list of like approved vendors and things. I mean, why can't wouldn't it be as easy as just connecting them to Verizon? They already have identified light poles, light fixtures, and other things that are IDA compliant.
Yeah. And I'm sure Verizon knows what those are. And I suspect there are financial reasons that it's going to cost a lot more for them to make our lights dark sky compliant. But I think, as Commissioner Gossett said, when we put pole number 17 up, things can change. And our mayor is really up for putting antennas on the sides of buildings or on top of buildings, because as you all remember from those brochures we sent out, there are antennas that can be placed on the sides of buildings and be shrouded. So I'm sure that Verizon understands that. However, we have to be the ones to direct the effort. So probably we would want a vendor or a lighting expert or some knowledgeable person to work for us. And that's going to take funding. But I think we could do it.
Would the IDA provide that person?
No, I bet they could tell us who. People have already contacted us, and Jan Conacy has been in contact with a lighting expert who knows about dark sky. So yeah. Oh, when we talk to the dark sky man on his conference call, they have a lot of sources, and they're willing to help out too. So I think that's possible, and I think the mayor would and the commissioners would be interested in funding it. It's not wouldn't be a huge amount, and have this person that was recommended by Dark Sky to come in, do an inventory of the boardwalk, see what it looks like at night in the summer with all the buildings, all the shops open, all the rides going, all the restaurants. I think that's a very doable and probably a great idea. It's just something in our chain of tasks that probably we need to do. We need to sit down and see what 1, 2, 3, 4, how they come, and if we want to do that.
And is this a 3-month out of the year problem? Do you think we're dark sky compliant 9 months out of the year?
I think a couple of things. That's a great question. If you read the standards, they're pretty strict standards. And right now, I think anytime we turn the street lights on, we're totally out of compliance. Summer and winter. So I think it's a year-round thing. I don't think we have as much light in the winter because a lot of these get rides and stuff are closed down, but we still have lights coming from the condos and stuff. So yeah, I think it's 12 months.
And then, why now? I'm just curious because I remember managing an oceanfront hotel in Ocean City, Maryland back in, had to be 86, maybe, or 87. And, we were approached at that time by an organization, had to be the same one, to adjust their lighting because of like turtle migration or something. I remember it was interfering with that. So like, have we not ever researched this issue in the past? And it seems like 30, 40, 30, I can't do the math, 30 years later, it's, we're just now sort of getting on board.
Yes. And what's happened, we had 3 people in Rehoboth who have been thinking about this probably for 25 or 35 years. And it just hasn't happened until now. Jan and Frank, especially those 3, have they had it. And with all the new LED lights, and we were going to put LED lights on Rehoboth Avenue and the boardwalk. And when that happened, they came forward and with the presentation that they made us, and everybody just, said, wow, what a great idea. And that's probably the best explanation I can give on why now. It just happened now, but it really caught on in town.
Are there any other nearby towns that have adopted similar?
Not nearby. It's really a high hurdle to jump, and not nearby. But I think Rehoboth is I think we're just ideal for this kind of a program. I know the Environment Committee, Dick, and all the folks on the Environment Committee, boy, they bought into it. And the city is a much bigger deal than just the boardwalk. So that's a big bite to chew, making the city compliant.
Is there I don't mean to pass this on to another committee, but it seems like it is going to be beyond the scope of the city-owned utilities on the boardwalk. It's going to require all of the businesses to be involved as well. Maybe this is a task force item or something that's out of our.
Yeah, could very well be, and we may decide that as we get into it. The reason Jan and Frank and Kate approached us was that they think that this is probably the easiest angle to go because the they were putting new lights on the boardwalk with the 5G antennas, and we're low hanging fruit. And that's why they decided to, and it's something that you can get your hands on, the boardwalk and the buildings that sit on the boardwalk. And they thought that it would be the easiest to start here. This was only a start in their minds. And the Environment Committee bought into that too. So that's kind of where that is. Now, as I have been reading and going through all these recommendations and requirements, this is going to be a big deal for the boardwalk and a much bigger deal for the town. But the citizens of Rehoboth are pretty good. They're pretty smart. And once they see all the pros and cons, I think they'll buy into it. But that's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the homeowners association board, and we've been looking into this as well. Jan gave us a presentation similar to what we've seen, and we sent a letter to the commissioners and the mayor in agreement with this initiative, but with the caveat of not having the city spend any money or much money to achieve it. So, as far as the residents, I think we're in agreement, but it's something it's going to be done in a economical fashion. I was just thinking, does it make sense? I mean, the whole city, it's going to be, I think, virtually impossible to make the whole city, compliant. The boardwalk's a challenge in itself because of all the lights that are on the boardwalk from the businesses, the condos, as you've been mentioning. Does it make sense to try to start it maybe at one end of the boardwalk, but let's say the south end of the boardwalk, where there's no condos, there's residences down there, but give people a place to go conjugate down at one end if they really want to see what a dark sky looks like, rather than have the whole boardwalk affected.
That might be a good idea. That would be probably something that wouldn't be so difficult,
right,
to accomplish. And then once you get either the north end or the south end compliant, then you could say, hey, let's keep going. Look what we've done. And there may be something to that. It's going to be really tough because for safety's sake, and this is where Chief Banks comes in, for safety's sake, you got to have enough light to keep people safe. And there are some real tough recommendations because it's going to cost money for even a home to put shields on the lights that are on their sides of their house. I mean, if you walk down Prospect Street, there are just lights shining everywhere off of these houses, and they're all automatic. They go on when it gets dark, and they stay on. A lot of them stay on, and it's a problem. And these are people that aren't interested. Nah, I shouldn't say that. These are people that are probably going to have to be educated and say, if you'd put a cover on that light, it could still shine on your driveway, but it doesn't have to light the whole neighborhood up. So it might be easier to start in one spot and move out. And that's something that needs to be, I agree with you. We ought to think about stuff like that. Who else? Shall we ask the Board of Commissioners if we can, how shall we do this? Shall we make a plan? Shall we go ahead, Allison.
Can we deliver on it sounds to me like we can't deliver on these 16 light posts.
I don't think so.
I think we go, I would then recommend that we throw our support behind this particular, if that's the case, behind this particular initiative, but I think this needs to be led by a collective group of people that represent the businesses, the homeowners, and the boardwalk. And maybe we recommend that we volunteer one of our members, somebody from the environment committee, somebody from the city, and make this some kind of task force. Because if we can't help them with the next 16 light posts, then I think this is probably all pretty premature, or maybe it's just not in the, it's not the right group of people to have this conversation.
Well, it's because we're the boardwalk committee, and the boardwalk is where they think the best opportunities lie. I'm not sure. Would it be better? Would it be worth doing a survey? Would it be worth going up and down the boardwalk and taking inventory and see what it looks like at night? And start there, even though we know it's winter time, just gathering information? Or do you think we ought to just start with the task force?
I would only say this, that I don't have an eye for it. I think the south end of the boardwalk doesn't have enough lighting right now for me to feel safe at night to walk beyond Star of the Sea by myself. So if that's not dark sky compliant, then I don't think I'm qualified to say really what is. I mean, I don't mind going out and helping people map the location of lighting. That might be something, but I couldn't tell you by looking at it whether it would be compliant or not compliant. I don't know what that looks like. And to your point, maybe we do need a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We could get the funds to hire a consultant, probably, if that's what we want to do. I think maybe if we decide that, maybe this is not the best. Maybe we ought to wait a little bit further down the road before we do that.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's 16 new light poles going in on the boardwalk. Out of, I think somebody said there was 53, 58 in total.
Yeah, we have it depends on whether or not you count we have 55, 57 light on the boardwalk.
Okay. Maybe we should see how, what task would be to change those lights in the dark, the remaining ones, the ones that are existing, because they, if we're going to go dark sky, they would have to be retrofitted somehow.
Yeah.
To be dark sky compliant. Maybe somebody could kind of look into that.
That might be a good thing to start out with.
Because if that's not, something we can do anyway, everything else is kind of moot.
Yeah. Well, when they decided to go forward with the proposals, that kind of kicked us in the tummy. But the mayor kind of wants us to see what we could do, if we could do, do some things that we could, and changing those other 40 some lights might be something going forward that would be worth trying.
That would have to be done anyway.
Have to be done anyway.
So
we don't know yet whether AT&T or T-Mobile or whoever will want to use more poles. Probably somebody ought to ask AT&T if they're interested in doing that. Is Kevin, are you within hearing distance?
Certainly, yeah, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate other poles on the boardwalk being utilized by other telecommunication companies?
So we've asked AT&T that. They've been very non-committal. I mean, they're still on the old using 4G technology, so they really haven't gone forward. But they've been very non-committal. But I think you can assume they're going to. So I like where you've gone with. You got to get past Verizon polls, okay? Because there's no way we, the city, are going to react, declare ourselves, night sky compliant in time to affect those 16 polls.
Yeah.
So I would recommend if you could go forward and say, okay, dark sky, if that's a citywide commitment, right? It's not going to be just dark sky on the boardwalk. So go back to the board, say, is the board willing to commit some resources to have somebody come in and tell us what we would need to be able to do? Does the city want to be night sky compliant or dark sky compliant? And make that commitment from the board that, yeah, we're going to do it throughout the city. It's going to be a 5-year program to get there because you're going to have to ultimately swap out a bunch of lights, which, we looked at going toward LEDs, Boardwalk, Rehoboth Avenue, sidewalks already, and kind of delayed that now a year to kind of sort through what y'all are talking about. So
Yeah.
I would go get that commitment from the board that, yes, the city wants to be night sky compliant, and it's going to take X number of years. We want to hire a consultant, come in and say, okay, here's what we would need to do to be dark sky compliant as a city. And then as we look forward to replacing the lights down Rehoboth Avenue or the sidewalk lights or the boardwalk lights, then we can integrate that into that overall plan for the city. So we've got a little bit of time now to do that because we pushed that whole LED conversion down the street a little bit. I think we're beyond affecting Verizon's polls, so get beyond that. And then look at the other 40 some polls on the boardwalk and go, hey, we're starting from scratch. Can we come up with a poll that is aesthetically pleasing to the most number of people? And oh, by the way, that can fit AT&T and Verizon's antennas inside it. Or a new design that's a better look than what you think the current Verizon ones are. But just be willing, we're going to eat 16, right?
Yeah.
Verizon's going to put them up. And if you come up with what that new pole design is, whether it's on the edge of the boardwalk, back on the business side or on the beach side, whatever, come up with that. And if it's aesthetically pleasing as you want it and can still accommodate a future cell tower, we've checked all the boxes on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just go back and retrofit or put new 17, 16 up that Verizon did. But get off of Verizon. There's no way we're going to impact theirs, right? We get a new globe, it gets dark sky compliant, and you've got maybe the boardwalk, but now the city's not. So look at the whole city for the dark sky compliant desire. And then if it is, go look at how we would then redesign 55 boardwalk poles to accommodate the cell towers and accommodate the dark sky piece of it.
Yeah.
That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah. And I think that these new LED lights are quite capable of being the correct color and the correct intensity. They can be modified, or maybe not even modified. They can be manufactured to be dark sky compliant. So I think that part is probably very doable. I've had
I
discussions.
think they can as well, and they're also able to be controlled such that you can change the candle power or whatever the measure of that light is different times of the day. So you can dim them down or brighten them up as you see fit.
Yep. And I haven't asked Chief yet to get in on this, but I mean, I know he has some real thoughts along those lines. And are you there, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to comment, or you just like to stick around in case we want you, or would you like to comment?
Well, thank you. I'm just following along. I will echo what Allison said. We do get several complaints a year. It's been consistent that on the south side being so dark. So anything we come up with, I think it'd help if we're bringing the light downward.
Yeah.
And also, I think we can definitely still be in compliance with dark sky in the future, but we do get some safety concerns. People feel unsafe walking at night by themselves.
Do you think that you think that we could satisfy the safety problem and still be compliant?
Yeah, I'm not being an engineer or anything like that, but I don't see any reason why not, as long as we're getting the light downward, so we can make sure that people feel safe when going. And again, and it's not just our citizens and visitors. I've even had officers
Yeah.
that go for runs at night sit there and say it's kind of just leery.
Yes. Well, as Mr. Williams didn't say it, but as as that narrative went on, it's very possible that we may be looking at something different from these acorn lights to bring a gooseneck
Correct.
out to really attenuate the light and aim it to the boardwalk to keep everybody safe. That's just one thing. And if the mayor can somehow prevail with his desire to put these lights on the west side of the boardwalk, we may have a totally open avenue to design the lights exactly like we want them. So it's just hard to know. But I think we want to go forward, and I think like Kevin said, the ship has sailed on these 16 lights, but we can think about 17, and there may be a way when the 16 lights get here that we can do something with that. We just don't know. So that part is probably probably doable. I think that before too many years go by, there'll be ways to change out these antennas and perhaps change out our lights. You know, it doesn't take much to put an arm on the side of a light if you got the light, if the pole will stand it. And I'm not sure. We may end up just changing out all 16, but that's down the road a long way. And but we do need to. It sounds like we're going to have more than 16. I totally believe that AT&T will want to put antennas on the boardwalk. They've got to go to high band 5G. They have to do it. They can't lose that share of the market. They can't make it with standard band. They got to go to high band. It just so happened that Verizon got in there first. Any other ideas about a path forward? Any suggestions?
Well, Jay.
Let me say a little bit about the Environment Committee. I asked Commissioner Byrne if he wanted to take the lead because it's a citywide project, not just the boardwalk. And the Environment Committee is citywide. But I just don't think they're ready to do that right now. And I would kind of like to see us keep talking about it. And everybody think about how they'd like to go forward and do some more research. Go back and read this article again on dark sky for urban night sky places and how that would mesh with the boardwalk.
Jay.
And let's talk about it again at the next meeting.
Jay.
Yo.
Yes, I have a comment that circles. It's Honey. I have a comment that circles back to 5G. Is perhaps this the point at which the city should think about working with one of these third-party vendors that comes in and puts up the cell towers that can be shared by multiple companies?
That interfaces with the telecommunication companies on our behalf.
So you don't just have to deal with AT&T or Verizon. They resell it, and they design something that is dark sky compliant or something that we think is aesthetically pleasing.
That's very true. Those people are available. They're out there. They're easy to find. A lot of cities use them. That's a very doable thing. And that perhaps is a suggestion that we might want to make to the commissioners.
Mhm.
The other suggestion is what Allison was saying. There are people, there are vendors who know how to help a city accomplish dark sky.
Mhm.
And I don't know of any city near us that's done that. A lot of cities out west. Well, that's where dark sky originated, on the out west. So I don't know. Well, we've come to the end of the trail here, and I'm gonna stay with the mayor's dictum suggestion that we keep this to 1 hour. Are there any citizens or any people who would like to make a last? We'll ask the members of the committee. Would any of you like to make a final statement? Kevin or Chief, would you guys like to say anything?
No, thanks.
Our next meeting is March 15th at 10 o'clock. And the meeting starts at 10:30. And I'll put some stuff together tonight and tomorrow. I'll go back and listen to our stream again, and I'll report to the mayor and the commissioners on Friday at the regular meeting about what we've accomplished today, or where we headed and what we were doing. We don't think we want dispensers for waste bags, and we'd like to keep talking about the dark sky thing. And we understand that these 16 polls are history, but we'd like to find some professional help and keep talking about it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for all the good thoughts. We'll